Good evening. Well, we'll go ahead and start with the first item, is approving the minutes held from December 14th.
I make a motion to approve that.
Motion made, second, all in favor? Next item up is to accept a Sheldon, to consider accepting Sheldon Lane.
We're gonna scratch that until the 11th of January,
Scratch until January.
Why is it being scratched?
because the road's not ready to accept. There's some work that needs to be done up there, and we've met with the people who did the construction, and so there's a bunch of stuff that we need to make sure is done before we accept that road.
So are they still responsible? I heard that the town was taking over the plow.
Well, I'm expecting that the council will accept that road on the 11th, as long as we get some criteria that's met, and we'll make sure that the road is done.
Is that why you were here?
Yeah, well, yeah, one
kind
of
of.
the reasons, we just wanted to, come and, tell you that we met with Manta, and he asked us if he could come on our property next spring, for this gravel, for this better drainage, so we have storm like we did last week, right, on that same problem.
Right.
So it's,
So we were just gonna say that we've given them permission to do that.
That's perfect. Yeah, good. Appreciate that.
yeah, so that should make a big difference with the problem up there.
It's a mess up there. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah, we talked, he came and talked to us last night. And
Yeah,
we
he came
gave-
and talked to me yesterday.
Yeah, and, yeah, we know it's a whole situation.
Okay, good. We're gonna get it taken care of, I promise.
Yeah, do you want to hear the rest of why we're here? Or do you want to wait?
We'll go through the agenda.
Yeah,
We don't
go
have a
ahead.
lot on the agenda, but, so, sir,
Where is Selma?
It's off from Deer Run. Allagash Drive, you take a left on the Deer Run, and at the very end of Deer Run, it runs perpendicular to High Street, actually.
it's like a T.
Brand new development. There's a bunch of new houses up in there.
So next item up, thank you, we will get back to you in a minute. Next item up is a presentation by Seven Lakes Alliance.
I have Anthony Wilson here from Seven Lakes Alliance. Anthony, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to move over here so I don't have my back to these folks. So as Ella mentioned, my name is Anthony Wilson. I'm the Director of Communications and Operations for the Seven Lakes Alliance. And just so you know, I'm also the former Belgrade Town Manager. Dana and I served together on the KV Cog board, so I'm familiar with your work. And I know that especially at this time of year, you've got a lot of pressure on you for a lot of requests concerning your upcoming budget. We're no different, but you know, I think you get none of what you don't ask for, and so we're here to ask, and then it will be up to you folks and then ultimately your voters to decide. You have a packet in front of you, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm only planning on going through the first 6 slides unless you find me so enchanting that you would like me to go on. I could be here all night. So on that first slide, the takeaway I want you to know is for the last several years, the town of Oakland has contributed $2,500 to the Seven Lakes Alliance budget. And we think that you get a pretty good return on that investment. I'm going to walk you through a few reasons why that is. So last year in 2022, when you consider the allocation both to Seven Lakes Alliance and to your 3 lake associations, the total approved by your voters was $15,500. This year, and this is information I've gotten from some of the other lake associations, Seven Lakes Alliance is seeking an increase from $2,500 to $5,000. East Pond Association, I'm told, is going to request the same amount that they had in 2022. Friends of Messalonsky's request is increasing by $1,500, and then McGraw Pond Salmon Lake Association by $600. So the upshot of that is $20,000, so not quite $5,000 total for the lakes. On the next page, if you consider the $2,500 for 7 lakes, that accounts for, let's see, that's 0.410% of Oakland's municipal budget, and the town's total $15.5 thousand contribution is 0.001% of the budget. And according to your assessor, your shorefront accounts for 24% of your tax base. So it's a minimal amount of money compared to the return that you're getting for a fairly significant portion of your tax base. The Seven Lakes Alliance, in this past year, we use those funds to help with our Youth Conservation Corps program, which is an erosion control program. This past year, we did 11 Youth Conservation Corps projects in Oakland on all of the lakes, all 3 lakes. And those resulted in 19 erosion control best management practice. So what is a best management practice? What it is the Youth Conservation Corps is made up of high school and college age students. They come in and they build infrastructure that helps to mitigate erosion on properties. And so that may be planting a vegetative buffer. It may be installing some infiltration steps. It may be installing some drip lines or laying an erosion control mulch as a pathway. There's a wide variety of these things. Those details are later in this presentation if you want to go on with that. But we did 11 of those projects, resulting in 19 of those best management practices. And the reason that doesn't align one-to-one is some properties require more than one best management practice. And just for a basic comparison, we received $2,500 from the town of Oakland last year. 1 day's payroll for the Youth Conservation Corps is $1,500, and that's before the wages will go up next year with the increase in the minimum wage. In addition to that, Seven Lakes Alliance conducted nearly 6,300 courtesy boat inspections, and we found 0 new infestations or known introductions of invasive plants in any of the lakes, aside from Messalonskee. The Friends of Messalonskee conducts its own inspections, and that's what they ask their funding from you guys for, is for milfoil control. We're looking for funds for erosion control. This, I think, alone justifies the amount of money that we're requesting from the town of Oakland in the coming year. This past year, we received $94,000 in grants for erosion control just on McGraw salmon. And what we do is we leverage those funds with funds from towns, lake associations, private property owners to double the infrastructure investment in things like town roads, camp roads, driveways, culverts, bridges. And so that $94,000, when it's all said and done, the investment made in infrastructure on the Salmon McGraw watershed will be closer to $200,000. And in this coming year, we've received a grant for $112,000 for that same sort of work on Messalonskee. So you're looking at a return on investment for that of about $225,000. And so, as I said, when you consider it's a $5,000 request and you're getting, let's see, what is that, $325,000 in infrastructure improvements on those 2 watersheds, it's a pretty good return.
And where do those grants come from, Anthony?
They come from the Department of Environmental Protection. They're actually grants from the Environmental Protection Agency, the federal agency. They're Clean Water Act grants that are federal dollars administered through the DEP, and the DEP awards those to different organizations or jurisdictions for doing erosion control work.
Oh,
In addition to that, and the reason all this erosion control is important is we're trying to keep dirt out of the lakes, because when dirt enters the lakes, it carries with it phosphorus. Phosphorus is a key ingredient or key nutrient for algae to feed on. And if you saw what happened on North Pond this year, we're trying to prevent that sort of thing from happening on all the lakes. So that's the reason that erosion control is so important. So you can't manage what you don't understand. And so we collect over the course from the late spring to the early fall, more than 1,000 water samples, including 609 on East Messalonskee, McGraw, and salmon and that was just through October. So we even went almost into November with our testing this year. And the testing, it should be noted, the cost of that testing is $11,000+. And so again, getting a pretty good return on investment for a $5,000 request, and you're getting testing that is a value of $11,000. And you are not the only town or municipality that we're seeking increased funding from. We're seeking increased contributions from all these towns, with the exception of Rome, which doubled its contribution last year from $18,000 to $36,000. Bless you. The next slide, and this is the one where I'll stop after this, is you can just see what the requests are. So Belgrade, we're seeking an increase from $40,000 to $60,000. Rome, as I said, doubled this past year, so we're not pressing them for any more funding. If you see the funding from Oakland, Smithfield, Sydney. And for the first time, we are seeking funding from Mount Vernon. Never done that before. And while the North Pond Association has received funds from the town of Mercer, we're doing that this year, the Seven Lakes Alliance. In fact, I made a presentation to them last Thursday. It's pretty well received, so we're hopeful in that regard. So unless you guys just want me to go through the rest of this presentation, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions?
A few years ago, somebody did a presentation that Colby was doing projects on the lake on water testing. Are they still doing that?
So what happens is Colby is one of our partners. So we do have 2 scientists, full-time scientists on our staff who really shoulder the load. And so what we do with Colby is they do provide us summer research students that help with the collection of all and the analyzing of all the water samples. But it's mostly our science staff who is shouldering that load.
Go on.
Wanted to follow up on that. Is Colby still doing a rotating separate research? In the past, they've done, let's say, Mesolowski Lake 1 year, then 2 years later, they'll do
So
a
what you're
thorough.
Yeah, so what you're referring to is the watershed-based management plan. So that's the vehicle by which we request the funding that Dana mentioned earlier. So you don't get the grants that we've gotten unless you prepared a watershed-based management plan. It's not actually Colby that does that. It's our organization working with the lake associations, where it's a comprehensive study of each lake's watershed to find out what is actually contributing to the degradation of water quality in that lake.
And then the original question was going to be, how did you decide on your increases for each of the towns?
It's an art as opposed to a science. And so we just thought, what is it that we thought that a select board and a town's voters would be willing to approve? So, you know, we had an advocate who is very involved in the Belgrade Lakes Association, which is the association for Great Pond and Long Pond last year, who sort of spearheaded this effort in Rome to increase funding. And it proved to us that, hey, you know, we hadn't requested funding, an increase in funding from Belgrade in at least 7 years. And so, in fact, we're receiving less from the town of Belgrade than we did 9 years ago. And so we decided, you know, it is time. We haven't requested in a long time. So what is the amount that we think that a select board and a town's voters would be willing to approve? Although your amount is being doubled, that's a pretty small increase, $2,500 in the whole scheme of the town of Oakland's budget. And so it didn't seem like it was beyond the pale to request that amount.
Bob?
I guess you sort of answered my question. I was going to ask if you have some rhyme or reason this is, whether it's on valuation or on shore frontage or on area of the lake, number of people, what philosophy do you use to decide how much Rome pays as compared to Sydney?
Pure politics.
But I guess,
Well, and
I'm not
so-
sure that's the greatest.
It's
way
not
to
the
do
greatest
it, huh?
answer, but it is the truth. And so obviously, Rome and Belgrade revolve more around their lakes than the town of Oakland does. So in Rome, 85% of their tax base is on the shorefront. In Belgrade, it's 60%. In Oakland, it's 24%. And so it seems justifiable to seek more funding from those two jurisdictions than we are from Oakland. Even though you guys have probably more capacity to pay than the town of Rome does, for instance, because their only tax base is residences. I mean, you at least have some commercial tax base.
Okay.
Bill?
Your CBIs, the courtesy boat inspection, is it just East Pond that you guys are servicing?
No, we do all the lakes. And so the only lake that we don't
In
do,
Oakland? On Oakland?
oh, in Oakland.
Yeah.
So we do Salmon and McGraw.
Okay.
And we do East Pond, and then the Friends of Mesolowski do Mesolowski.
So Salmon and McGraw, where are you setting up your station? Is it on Salmon Lake?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we don't have any on McGraw.
Yeah, there's no public launch for McGraw, but you can access McGraw via salmon. So we work the public launch there on salmon.
Further questions? See, thank you, sir, for your time.
I appreciate your time and your attention. By the way, my contact information is on the very last page, so if any of you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to contact.
Nice work.
Thanks all.
Second reading of the revised GA ordinance.
I'm gonna hand that over to Jan.
Do what?
Jan will take care of that.
So Dana and I were talking earlier. So the second reading of this general assistance ordinance is something that MMA has compiled. So earlier, we had to accept food and the household and electricity and so on. So now MMA has made all of those incorporated into this whole complete ordinance. And there are a few other things that they tightened up a little bit when it's explanation of what is not considered a basic necessity. If somebody comes in and says, my phone and my cable and all of those things. So it just gives a thorough guidance. I think you can go to this ordinance at any point and get an answer. So that's what we're doing. We're accepting this ordinance in its entirety, mostly too, because it includes everything that we approved of before. And if anybody, the ordinance is 100 pages, as Dana and I spoke, but anybody that wants to come and get this ordinance sometime and just look over what it is about general assistance, more than happy.
What we thought probably everybody would want to read 20 pages to the group and that would cover it.
There you go.
The chair and the vice chair should be able to read that and report back. But isn't then this a first reading? It's different than our first reading.
No, we had a first reading last week of this,
Oh, of that very same
Yes,
thing,
yes,
okay.
yeah.
Somewhere else,
but some
So,
were absent.
yes,
Yes.
okay.
I'd make a
I'm good.
motion we accept this as a second reading of the
Motion on made a second reading of the general assistance, seconded by Don, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is a document that we have to send in to the
Don, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
printed on one side. signed
We
on
are
the
going to be
other.
talking about the road acceptance on the 11th. It's something that's, we've been trying to get this done, but the documents just haven't been coming together yet. So that's the other thing.
Now it's your floor.
Thank you.
How can we help?
My name is Joe Biden. You guys don't know me. I'm a resident on the end of Allegheny Drive. We come here tonight and ask that town would consider maybe putting a dead end sign street at the intersection of Deer Run for the last couple hundred yards of Allegheny Drive up to the end. We get a lot of traffic up there turning around and everybody's yard.
We've been wanting it for 30 years, but we've always kind of been denied because of the existence of the possibility of that development going all the way around. Well, we have now purchased all of that. So that's not gonna happen. And
I don't see any issue with this whatsoever. This is the first I've heard of it.
yeah,
I will make sure that you get signed ordered.
I mean,
tomorrow.
Sullivan Lane residents could probably ask for the same on their end, but I mean,
Yeah, you could.
we
come
could
in-
tell you stories of something
Right.
going on the
You
end of
could
the.
have come into my office. I would have taken care of it.
Yeah, we are
Thank
probably gonna meet with you about some other stuff too, about that whole situation. We met with Jeff Hall, about the turnaround up there, because this is the second time this has happened, but we bought the turnaround.
I heard something about that. So now we're in a situation where we don't have a turnaround.
You do, because we are giving you the permission to use it,
The buses could do the bus.
maintain it. You know, we're hoping that that means, keeping it paved when the road is paved. But we also are giving permission for the use of it, but we want to be in control of that to a point. And that's what we met with Jeff about.
Why don't we plan on getting together in my office and I'll have Jeff come in and we'll sit down, we'll work out all these nuts and bolts.
Yeah,
and make sure it's-
Because it's hard because we have a new plow guy,
You have a new, for my end, you mean, or on your end?
a new plow guy. The old one was there for 30 years.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we've got a lot of new staff.
Yeah. And
All right,
Hard to
when
convey.
we
It's hard-
plan to have a meeting,
Yeah.
we'll then talk to you about that.
it's hard to convey.
How about school
Jeff-
buses? Can the school buses still turn around?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
Jeff freaked out because this actually has happened before. We bought the other turnaround originally, so they were able to just move up to this, what was gonna be Woodstock Road. So we bought it again, and the minute he heard it, he was like, oh no, you gotta be kidding me. You're doing this to us again? Like, no, we're not, because Mantor, I know that we've got a lot going on with Mantor right now, but they were, very, very adamant that turnaround be, we put up a gate in the back of it, but that gate be off, the turnaround enough so that snow removal, the buses, everything can, use that properly. But, we don't want plowed snow plowed against the gate.
So do you guys live right at the end of Allagash?
We do.
Yeah.
And over the years, we bought 2 lots across the street,
I see.
and now we bought the last 12 and the road.
So that end sign, as you can imagine, we probably can't put it in the ground.
No.
But we'll get it ordered, we'll get it on.
Right.
We may even have one.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, you could actually put it down at the end by Broder's house, and, that would work, but I think up by Deer Run works better for us.
Sounds good. I'll look forward to our conversation.
Okay,
All right,
yes,
awesome.
Because actually it's a dead end if you go straight or go down to Sheldon.
yeah.
It's a dead end either
Well,
way.
every which way, it's dead end
It's a
now,
dead end road.
but it wasn't like, it was always a possibility that those roads could all go around and around and up on, Hill Street, all.
Right.
But now, that's not happening.
No, we don't want that to happen.
No. No.
Because that'll be a racetrack.
Yes. Yeah. And
Sure.
we've had some weird things happening lately on the end, very strange.
This is the end of it. All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
for your time.
Just
Thank
give me
you.
a call, so I'll
Okay.
make sure of my office.
Sure.
Okay, and I give you my business card, and that was it.
Should probably, do you have anything tonight? David?
We should probably consider looking at all of that up there for signage.
Yes.
There may be, like taking the left on Selden towards Sawtell, that may be worth a sign there. So,
Yeah.
I'll talk.
Look at that whole
We'll get it there. It's kind of a mess on Sullivan Lane right now, and so once we get off that iron out, we can look at the finish product.
Rob, not-
Because there's still one lot up there for sale.
I'm all set.
Woman,
One more thing. Make a motion to adjourn.
second, all in favor? Thank you for coming in.